Chosen one, God has brought you here for a reason. There is something special and sacred about the way you live your life. Heaven has been watching you closely. Now it is time for an announcement from God. You have gone through many tests that other people never even saw. You have been stretched, hurt, and challenged, but in every situation, you chose to follow the heart and example of Christ. When others became bitter, you humbled yourself before God. When others fought back, you chose to pray. When others walked away, you stayed faithful. Because of this, a new season is coming. This season is not only a blessing, it is a release and a promotion from heaven. God is lifting you higher, not because you are perfect, but because your heart stayed pure under pressure. Let's look at this journey in 7 sections so you can understand how your Christ-like endurance opened the door to your next spiritual elevation. Before we continue, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This isn't just a video, it's a message meant for people who loved when it hurt, forgave when it cost them everything, and kept their hearts clean even after betrayal. If your spirit resonates with this message, type 77 in the comments right now. That number isn't random. It's a prophetic sign that your Christ-like love has been noticed. Heaven is declaring your test is over and your promotion has arrived. Not everyone will understand this message because not everyone chose purity in a broken world. But if you're still reading, you have already shown strong spiritual maturity. You can return to this message again whenever you need encouragement. Each time, God may reveal something new to you. This is not entertainment. This is a reminder that God is honoring your faithfulness and preparing you for a greater purpose. It's time to dive in and receive what God has for you. Section number 1, you chose love even when it hurt. You were not tested by how much you knew or how talented you were. Your real test was about love. God watched to see if you could still love while being rejected, ignored, and hurt. The question was, could you keep a soft heart in a hard world? God didn't just watch how you acted when life was good, He watched how you responded when you were betrayed. He saw your private tears, your quiet prayers, and your silent battles, the moments no one else saw. What made you different wasn't only your strength, it was your gentle, loving spirit. That kind of heart is rare, and heaven noticed. You didn't only love people who loved you back, you loved the people who hurt you. You prayed for people who never prayed for you. You protected the people who exposed you. You stayed loyal to people who couldn't even say your name without anger. But you never let their behavior change your character. That was your real test. You chose love when you felt alone. You forgave before anyone said, sorry. You kept giving even when you felt empty. You chose peace instead of bitterness. You chose grace instead of pride. And while others may not have understood, God saw it all. He recorded every act of love because real love never goes unnoticed in heaven. Some people thought you were weak or foolish for loving like that, but they didn't understand. Your love was spiritual. It reflected the heart of Christ. It was real, deep, and costly. You weren't reacting to what people did to you. You were living from who God made you to be. Love isn't just something you do, it's who you have become. The heart of Christ is not proven by winning arguments or battles. It is shown when you refuse to let your heart grow cold, including toward yourself. You protected your heart not with anger or revenge, but with wisdom and goodness. You didn't let what others did change the love God placed inside you. That's what makes you chosen. Your love didn't make you weak, it made you powerful, because true love destroys darkness. Darkness could not understand the kind of love you carried. Bitterness couldn't stay in your heart. Resentment couldn't take root. Even though pain tried to change you, it didn't break you. Instead, it shaped you, strengthened you, and purified your spirit. Now heaven is responding. This was never only about surviving the test, it was about preparing you for promotion. You passed one of the greatest spiritual tests. You chose to love like Christ, and because of that, God is lifting you into a new season. You didn't just make it through. You protected the love of God inside you while walking through a world that tried to silence it. You loved even when you cried. You are loved with wisdom. You set boundaries. You kept loving through betrayal, silence, and loss. And because of that, God is going to honor you in a way no person can block, because God Himself saw everything. Remember, real love is spiritual warfare. You have been fighting on the front lines with your heart the whole time. But now your time of promotion is here, not because you were perfect, but because your heart stayed pure. Not because you shouted loudly, but because you stayed faithful. God is about to show you that choosing love was never a waste. What you gave in secret will now be rewarded openly. People may have missed it, but heaven didn't, and heaven never forgets. Section number 2. Your character stayed strong under pressure. Beloved child of God. Anyone can look holy when life is easy. When everything is working out, the bills are paid, friends are loyal, and nothing is stressing them. But real character is revealed when life becomes difficult. It shows when people misunderstand you, when you feel pressured, and when you are carrying a weight no one else sees. You were tested quietly in private moments. You were pushed to your limits by people who didn't understand what you were going through. They touched old wounds. They tried to bring back the person you used to be. They pulled at the very areas you had already surrendered to God. And even then, you didn't break. You didn't fight back. You didn't return to your old habits, even when it would have been easy. You were provoked, but you chose peace. You were insulted, but you chose silence. You were misjudged, but you didn't rush to defend yourself. You let God handle the battles your flesh wanted to fight. That was true strength. That was maturity. That was spiritual growth, the kind heaven sees and rewards. Some people tried to drag you into drama. They wanted to know if your faith was real or just for show. But every time you refused to curse them back, every time you prayed instead of getting revenge, every time you cried in private instead of reacting in public, you were being lifted spiritually. Your silence was not weakness, it was wisdom. Your patience wasn't laziness, it was strength. Your calmness wasn't denial, it was self-control. The anointing on your life required a higher response, and you understood that God doesn't bless fake behavior. He blesses a humble heart. Your heart stayed right under pressure. You didn't post revenge. You didn't insult your enemies online. You didn't clap back when people lied about you. Instead, you took your pain to God in prayer instead of putting it on display. That discipline, that integrity, that quiet strength, heaven noticed it all. God saw what others ignored, and He hasn't forgotten. Chosen one, your quiet obedience qualified. You don't think for a moment that your quiet obedience was wasted. That is actually what qualified you. God does not promote people because they are popular or seen by others. God promotes those who obey Him in secret. And you chose to do the right thing even when no one was watching. That made you spiritually strong. While others were loud and trying to prove themselves, you stayed faithful. While they were attacking you, you were growing. You passed a test many people fail, the test of keeping your character when your emotions wanted to take over. You didn't just protect your reputation, you protected your integrity. That is rare, that is holy, that is what it means to be chosen. Pressure reveals the truth inside a person, and when the fire came, your foundation stayed strong. Your faith did not break, your light did not fade. Even though you cried and struggled, you never compromised who you are in God. You bent, but you did not break. You were wounded, but you did not bow to darkness. Because of this, the promotion God is bringing will not be temporary. It will bless generations. Your character is the reason you are being elevated. The choices you made in private are echoing in heaven. Now God is responding, not to your pain, but to your heart posture. Not to complain, but to your faithfulness. You didn't crack under pressure. And because God can trust your character, He is now trusting you with more power, more influence, and more responsibility in His kingdom. This is the season where your calling increases, because your heart proved ready. Section number 3. You passed the tests. No one saw, chosen one. Most people think God promotes people because they are seen, praised, or celebrated. They believe recognition, titles, and attention equal elevation. But you learned something deeper. Your promotion didn't come from what others saw. It came from the victories you won in private, when no one was watching, no one was clapping, and no one even knew you were being tested. You went through battles in your mind, in your emotions, and in your spirit, and you faced them quietly. You could have compromised, but you didn't. You could have taken the easy way out, but you chose what was right. You could have fought back in pride, but instead you humbled yourself before God. These moments were not small. They were spiritual tests, and in heaven they mattered more than any public success. You resisted temptation when no one else was around. You deleted things you knew didn't honor God. You walked away from relationships that still pulled on your heart. You fasted even when you were already exhausted. You prayed while holding back tears. You gave even when you barely had anything. You forgave while still hurting. You respected people who didn't respect you. You obeyed God even when disobedience felt easier, and even when you felt justified to do wrong. No one celebrated you for these choices. There were no applause, no awards, no thank you speeches. Just you, God, and the pain you couldn't always explain. But even when people didn't notice, heaven did. God recorded every private yes, every quiet act of obedience, every inner battle you fought and won without an audience. And now heaven has spoken. You passed the test. Heaven saw your sacrifice. God didn't just watch your journey, He recorded every moment you chose what was right. He saw every time you chose discipline instead of giving in, integrity instead of attention, purity instead of popularity. Heaven was keeping track of your growth. Your reward will not come from people, it will come from God Himself. People only saw your smile, but God saw the sacrifice behind it. Some thought you weren't progressing. They didn't realize how much you were growing on the inside. They couldn't understand the spiritual weight you were carrying, but God saw everything. And now, what was shaped in private is about to be revealed in public. God is releasing favor over your life, not because you were loud, but because you stayed loyal. You passed tests many people fail, not the public ones, but the private ones. You survived mental battles that no one else knew about. You overcame temptations that were strong enough to pull you back. You worshipped through heartbreak when lifting your hands felt heavy. That's what qualified you. You didn't need a stage or recognition. All you needed was God's approval, and now you have it. Doors that once stayed closed are about to open suddenly. Because when you are faithful in secret, God rewards you openly. The world is about to see the results of struggles only you and God know you went through. This favor is not random. It is evidence, a heavenly receipt, proving that your private pain had a divine purpose. Section number 4. You stayed humble when pride tried to enter. Beloved chosen one of the biggest spiritual tests is pride, not the loud pride everyone can see, but the quiet pride that whispers when you've been mistreated, ignored, or misunderstood. It shows up when you've been wrongly accused or pushed aside and says things like, "They don't know who you are. Prove yourself." Make them regret how they treated you. But you didn't give in to that voice. Instead of reacting, you chose humility. You chose silence instead of drama. You chose to trust God instead of defending yourself. You didn't expose those who lied about you, even when you could have. You didn't try to prove your worth, even when you had every right to. You let God be the one who defended your name. And now, the same places that rejected you are beginning to honor you. The world teaches that success comes from showing off, competing, and promoting yourself. But God promotes people who stay humble, and you lived that truth. You could have caused a scene, but you chose prayer instead. You could have embarrassed people publicly, but you chose to grow privately with God. You didn't let being overlooked turn into pride. You served quietly, even when no one thanked you. You helped people who didn't help you back. You gave, even when you were tired and empty. You respected leaders who didn't always treat you right. That isn't weakness, that's spiritual strength. Pride tried to tempt you through your pain, saying, "Get revenge. Show them what they lost." But humility answered, "God will fight for me. If it is truly from God, I don't need to prove anything. I just need to be faithful." And again, you chose humility, not because you were afraid, but because you trusted God. Now, because you stayed humble, God is lifting you higher, not only in position, but in spiritual authority. Your name carries weight in the spiritual realm because you didn't chase fame, you chased purity. You didn't run after platforms, you stayed close to God in the secret place. And that private faithfulness is about to produce a visible change. The same people who overlooked you will see what God has done, not through revenge, but through God's vindication. Because when God promotes someone, nothing and no one can stop it. Your promotion is the fruit of your humility. What God is bringing into your life is not a reward for trying to impress people, it is a reward for staying humble. While others built their lives around pride and ego, you built your life on obedience to God. While others chased attention, you chased God's will. And now heaven is opening doors for you, not because you promoted yourself, but because you carried a pure heart. Pride could have destroyed you, but humility grounded you and kept you safe. Now your roots in God are so strong that when He lifts you higher, nothing will be able to shake you. Always remember, in God's kingdom, the way up is through humility. You bowed low in private. Now God is getting ready to honor you in public. Section number 5, you blessed others while you were bleeding. Chosen one, most people will never understand the true cost of your kindness. They see your smile, your encouragement, and your willingness to serve others, but they don't see the pain behind it. You were hurting, but you still gave. You were grieving, but you still showed up. You were tired and depleted, but your heart kept pouring out love. Many think strength comes from having everything together. But your real strength was proven when everything inside you felt broken. You were a light in the darkness, even when your own lantern was running low. You were a lighthouse guiding others through storms, even while waves of hardship crashed over you. No one saw the nights you cried after supporting others all day. No one knew the internal battles you fought while praying for someone else's breakthrough. No one saw the moments you had to lift yourself up in between helping others. You bled privately, yet you continued to pour publicly. And that is the heart of Christ. Just like Jesus, who suffered on the cross but still prayed, "Father, forgive them," you gave purpose to your pain. You didn't wait until you were whole to help others. You didn't need recognition to stay committed. You gave not because it was easy, not because you had extra, but because love compelled you. You didn't let cruelty make you bitter. You didn't let careless hearts turn you away from people in need. You stayed soft, surrendered, and faithful. You kept blessing even when no one blessed you back, and heaven saw every act. What you were doing wasn't just being kind. You were walking in divine alignment. You were following in the footsteps of Christ, loving even when unloved, serving even while suffering, giving without expecting anything in return. You carried your own pain and still made space for others to grow. Now the season of bleeding and sacrifice is ending. The time of giving in hardship is shifting. You are not being promoted just because you survived. You are being lifted because you showed the heart of God in the process. Every seed you planted during your struggles is about to produce a supernatural harvest. You didn't just survive, you sowed. You didn't just endure, you empowered others. You didn't just make it through, you strengthened others while you were still hurting. Heaven saw every act. God noticed every tear, every late-night prayer, every quiet sacrifice. Nothing was overlooked, and nothing was wasted. This promotion is more than a blessing. It is a divine repayment, a holy return for every secret act of obedience. It is a spiritual overflow for every season of emptiness and pain. You will receive from the fields you watered with tears. You will be restored in the places where you gave your strength quietly. God is making a way for you to reap what you faithfully sowed. Section number 6, you kept your spirit clean. Chosen one, there were times when life was hard. You were misunderstood, lied about, overlooked, and attacked. Anyone could have blamed you for snapping back. The pressure on your reputation could have made you bitter. Betrayal could have made your heart cold. Disrespect could have justified revenge. The world would have cheered if you had lashed out. But you didn't live for the crowd. You lived for God. You chose alignment over attention. You chose obedience over offense. You chose purity over pettiness. While others gossiped, you stayed silent. While they plotted, you prayed. While they slandered, you surrendered. You didn't retaliate, you worshipped. You didn't fight with anger, you fought in the Spirit. You didn't curse your enemies, you blessed them quietly. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Not because you didn't feel hurt or anger, but because you refused to give it control. There were nights when your mind wanted revenge, but your heart whispered, "Stay pure." There were moments you wanted to expose the truth, but God said, "Hold your peace." Even when life felt unfair, the Spirit kept you from giving in to your flesh. You weren't perfect, but you were intentional. You were disciplined. You were surrendered. That surrender protected your anointing. That discipline preserved your destiny. That purity prepared the way for your promotion. Purity doesn't mean you have no struggles. It means you choose God over gratification every day, even when no one sees. You repented quickly. You fasted while others indulged. You shut down offense before it could take root. You refused to let bitterness sit on the throne of your heart. And because of that, God's favor is now being released over your life. You stayed pure, and now God is trusting you. Chosen one, you protected your spirit like it was sacred oil, because it was. You stayed pure in a world that celebrates compromise, and because of that, God is entrusting you with more. You didn't let your heart get contaminated by what others did. You didn't lose yourself in revenge. You preserved yourself for revelation. You didn't just survive battles. You remained worthy through them. You didn't just endure pain. You kept your heart and your character clean. You didn't just pass tests. You passed a purity test in heaven itself. That's why the next level God is giving you isn't just a blessing, it's a reward. Not for being perfect, but for being faithful. Not for being famous, but for staying spiritually clean. Heaven has been holding blessings in reserve, waiting for this moment. Waiting for you to show that your hands could stay open without taking what wasn't yours. Waiting for you to prove that your heart could stay soft, even when life tries to harden it. Now the delay is ending. Now the doors are opening. God can trust you, not just with power, but with purity. The final section, number 7. Your heavenly promotion has arrived. Chosen one, what you've gone through was not punishment. It was preparation. Every tear, every misunderstanding, every delay had a divine purpose. You were not forgotten. You were being shaped and strengthened. You were not overlooked. Heaven was watching. Now the report is complete. You are ready. The season of testing is over. Every hidden trial, every quiet battle, every act of obedience in secret has been counted as righteousness. You didn't just survive, you passed with honor. While others chased recognition, you built an altar. While they sought attention, you sought alignment with God. Now the shift is here. You are not just being promoted, you are being publicly affirmed by God's kingdom. This favor is not earned by your resume or reputation. It is divine, it is prophetic. God is showing the world, "This is my servant in whom I am well pleased." Your elevation is not just for you, it will glorify God through your story. Your breakthrough will inspire others. Your life will show that obedience is never wasted and that suffering for righteousness produces eternal value. And it will not come through striving or manipulation. It comes through surrender. You do not need to fight for this. This promotion will find you. It is not based on connections, fame, or effort. It is based on covenant and faithfulness. Heaven is rewarding you for the times you could have acted out, but chose holiness. For the times you could have retaliated, but chose rest. For the seasons you could have compromised, but chose integrity and character. Divine compensation is coming. You are about to experience God's reward in ways that no one has seen or heard before. The change will be so sudden and powerful that people will wonder if they missed something. And they did. They missed your tears, they missed your self-denial, they missed your long nights of prayer, your silent intercessions, and your private acts of obedience. But heaven noticed everything. Don't be surprised when an unusual favor begins to follow you. Don't doubt it. Don't shrink back when honor comes knocking. This is not pride, it is your arrival. You have entered your ordained season. The harvest that God promised is finally here. The oil you carried in private is now ready to shine publicly. The places where you were once rejected will now recognize you as chosen. The people who mocked you will be amazed. The ones who said you were too much, too soft, or too holy will now see God lift you. You won't need to perform or explain yourself. The glory on your life will speak for itself, because it comes from a pure heart. So walk boldly, chosen one. Walk humbly. But do not dim your light to make others comfortable. This is your moment. And it is not because you were perfect. It is because you were faithful. Overall message: you endured in secret, remained faithful, loved deeply, stayed humble, and kept pure. Now heaven is releasing your reward. Not for perfection, but for faithfulness. Your season of promotion, favor, and divine recognition has arrived.